MALAN Institute of Engineering and Technology. Today, actually, I'm going to deliver a simple but important talk on outcome-based education. We have actually two parts of this webinar. Today is the part one, and the next part will be given by Dr. Nidhika Villa tomorrow at the same time. You need to watch for both the parts to understand properly what we are exactly are onto. Actually, what we are actually onto is to make all teachers across India, mostly, to make them aware what we are teaching actually is valid for the students to be useful in their future lives. So there are two goals, two objectives of this particular webinar. That is creating awareness towards national education goals among teachers, especially when we are permanent seat holders in Washington Accord. And the second one is how OBE can make this happen so easily for us. That is the role and necessity of OBE in curriculum development. What I'm going to cover in this webinar, first webinar, is this is the outline of my webinar, part one. That is, first of all, we'll see what is outcome-based education. Then we'll see difference between outcome-based education and the traditional way of education, imparting education, and when can exactly we will be able to implement this OBE, in what stages of imparting education. And then the fourth one is importance of OBE in technical education. So before I start, actually, I would like to give an example of mobile phones. You can see mobile phones or the versions of the desktop, laptop, notepads we use or tablets are changing very fast. You buy one today and then tomorrow you see another one in the market. By the time you are accommodating yourself, adjusting your needs with that one, older one, you get a new one in the market. And so it's, you have to buy that one for prestige sake, for instance, or to show others that you're intellectual, you know things, right? So you actually have a pressure of acquiring skills very fast, because they are very fast arriving. So if you are not able to adapt, you are finished from the market. So you see, if we keep the ensign of solid syllabus to our students, and when they appear for industrial interviews, when they go for interviews to be hired by industries, and they are asked some few questions, and they feel like, oh, some aliens have come to ask me questions which is out of syllabus, So we do not want that, and we want to be in the market, and it is very necessary for us to be in the market. And so what we need is our syllabus must be outcome oriented. So what is outcome? Outcome, Spady in 1994, long back, have explained outcome very nicely. It's not a collection of your experiences, but a manifestation or implementing those experiences in your future life. How you can enhance your learning through your past experiences, not because you need to collect those, but because you need to learn from the experiences. What wrong you have done in the past, that you need to correct today, so that you don't do any wrong in your future, right? So probably you're not able to understand me right now, but you will understand as long as I'm okay with it, right? Okay. Now, once you know what is outcome, now you need to know what is outcome-based education. It's very simple. When you know that outcome is something which we can actually, it should be not tangible, but it should be, anybody can feel the difference, what we have given before the stimuli has been provided, and what is the outcome, right? Now, OBE, outcome-based education, is something which starting with a clear picture of what is important for the students, I say quote students, to be able to do, then organizing our curriculum according to their needs, our curriculum, our delivery pattern, our assessments, and other things, so that we can ensure that the learning is actually happening. That is, you see what stages we have implemented outcome-based education at the time of curriculum mapping, at the time of delivery, at the time of assessment making, designing assessments, right? So we need to ensure that what we are teaching them or what we are giving them is actually fruitful. Now, if you see, this is a framework given by Spady in the year 1994, quite long. At the time, this was not seen, you know, in a good manner. I mean, people have criticized this framework because they thought this is quite, is not easy to understand and very hard to implement. So they have discarded it. And so nobody have thought of this in today's life. Today it is very important because this OBE framework is very much accommodative to our changing needs. As I said, the fast arriving technology, for instance, right? So this model probably fits in there, and that's why it has been revisited by MALAN in 2000. So you can see this is a framework given by Spady. That is, all the operation staff need to actually focus on the system, educational system, on four different functions, right? The functions like direction setting, program designing, delivery of instructions, and documentation of results. So it starts with direction setting. That is, you need to be clear about your goal, that what exactly you want to give away, so that you can design exactly in the similar manner which would be fruitful, right? So direction setting is the first things. Then you do design down. Design down is program designing. So I'll let you know what is design down actually, but in detail later on. But it is something you can see. I would like to discuss a concept of backcasting. Probably some of you are knowing and some others are not knowing. You might be thinking there is nothing like backcasting, but there is a word called backcasting. No, it's Robert, I can't remember his full name, he's an oncologist, and given away this backcasting word, and it has been used mostly in the area of sustainability. Backcasting is something which we do when we are individually planning something. When we do planning in a group, we do forecasting, right? What we need, we excel things and we try to achieve those. We don't look at our past, what we have done the wrong things in the past, but we want to excel. So we do that in forecasting. But backcasting is something which we visualize the vision first, the vision, mission, statement of a company first, or the goal, you can say. We visualize the goal first, and then we come back to our curriculum setting. Okay, here curriculum setting, and then we found out what are the problems that we are doing right now. What are the problems that we are doing right now to make them right today, so that we can easily achieve our vision. So it is visualizing first and then acting. So a successful outcome is imagined in the future. Then the question is asked, what do we need to do today to reach that vision of success tomorrow, right? So this is something is called backcasting. It's very well fitting over here. Now, this framework has been, simplified by MALAN, because he had found out that it is very easily, the framework can actually adapt our changing needs. So he had actually diversified a little bit of the same framework in a different manner. So the framework says it is needs driven. Needs driven means we will never stop learning, right? That is, we should be lifelong learners. Whenever we get new technology, we need to acquire those. We need to update ourselves, right? So our curriculum, our syllabus, our learning outcomes must be needs driven. Then it should be also outcomes driven. Outcomes driven is we need to ensure that the industry is getting whatever they want, in terms of our graduates, right? The employable graduates. We need to produce employable graduates for industry. That is the main goal of any educational system. Right. Now, the third one is with a design down approach. Just now I have told how to do backcasting, design down. First visualizing the learning outcomes, then you go into your curriculum to math books, right? So, and then specifies outcomes and levels of outcomes. We can use Bloom's taxonomy to design our outcomes, levels of outcomes. The levels of outcomes must be fitted in or mapped to the overall program across three domains. The domains, I would say, three domains are cognitive domain, that is the thinking skill, enhancing critical thinking among graduates. Second is the psychomotor thinking. Psychomotor is the domain, that is doing that is manifestation or implementing of what they have learned. Then another one is affective. Affective is feeding, their attitude. A graduate must behave differently. Like he should be, thinking how he can give back to the society, to the environment, through whatever he had learned throughout his, let's say, engineering program, right? We take engineering program. So we need to ensure that we actually design our assessments in a different way. That is, there should be levels of outcomes. So in what level, what kind of domain can be used to map, we should know very well, right? So once we go up, the criticality will go higher. That is, when you go up, the designing, the assessments would be difficult for the students, right? Focus must be shifted from teaching to learning. That is what is the point. Teaching is mostly teacher-centered. Teacher says and students do. And what they do, they only follow the instructions, right? But because we have changing needs, everybody has got their own gadgets. They can find out information so fast. Information is arriving at your desk very fast. So we need to make them learner-centered, make the teaching learner-centered. Why? Because in this way, we can make our education system innovative, and through learning, students can learn more things, they can be innovative, they have a chance to put forth their critical thinking, their ideas, and all those things, right? So focus must be competency-based educational system. Competency-based education system demands learning, right? Then it is holistic. Holistic means it doesn't mean that only one thinking will be imposed on learning. We can actually accommodate whatever comes in our way, which is good for our educational system, which can enhance learning. We can actually accommodate all those in our system, right? So this is what is the framework of OBE. Probably this helps all teachers now to understand what we need to do. Right. Now, you see the difference before we go further on OBE, we need to see what is the difference between the traditional education and the OBE. Traditional education, as you know, you and me know, it was very teacher-centered. Now, OBE asks you to be learner-centered. That is, the teacher only needs to be a facilitator of learning, right? That is kind of referee, right? So the learner will be engaged in learning 100%, right? And then the traditional way of learning was rote learning. That is, finish syllabus, a complete syllabus, and just make your questions ready so that you can actually pass your exam. But not like that, you give ample space for creativity, promoting critical thinking and all those sort of things, right? Scoring good grades is what we need in traditional education system. The more you score, the more intelligent you are. If you are scoring less but you are mastering everything, practically nobody asks because you failed the first criteria of having higher percentage. So that is not the case in OBE. OBE demands an overall development of a graduate. That is, a graduate who can be employable. It's not only the technical skills, soft skills, other skills. Right. Tutor is just a facilitator over here, just now I told, and learner accurate knowledge and problem solving areas. In traditional education, it was mostly one individual who used to learn, who used to score high. But in OBE approach, we have collaborative and team learning, so that we can have, in a team we have complacent ideas coming up, so that we can address each and every aspect of one problem to get a good solution. You have options available to solve a problem. So team learning or collaborative learning is quite good in OBE system. Right. And then the traditional learning says you finish the syllabus, that's all. But OBE says you finish the syllabus, but you also have to ensure the skills that the industry requires. You have inculcated those skills in your graduate. Now, the stages where we can actually implement OBE. Excuse me. We can actually implement 3 stages that I have already told in the beginning. The first one is the curriculum mapping, and the second one is while you write learning outcomes, also while you design assessments, right? So the curriculum mapping. What is curriculum mapping first? The process by which you can actually determine where, when, and how learning outcomes are taught, right? The learning outcomes, I'll come to that, what are learning outcomes. But what are learning outcomes that should be, executed somewhere, and you need to ensure how it can be enhanced and designed so that the students can actually get good hold of those skills that they learn through the programs, right? So the process by which you determine where, when, and how learning outcomes are taught, where, when, and how the learning outcomes are taught and assessed within a program, right? It demonstrates in which courses learning outcomes are taught and assessed in the curriculum. It also has to ensure that the outcomes that they have, you have designed must be fruitful for the students to implement in the industries. That is, they must manifest those outcomes once they have graduated from the school. Second is the learning outcome, writing learning. Well, learning outcomes are the statements. Learning outcomes are broad yet direct statements that describe the KSAs, that is knowledge, skill, and attitudes that the students should reliably demonstrate as a result of undertaking the educational experience. They can be articulated at several stages, let's say from lessons, course, program, degrees, or other stages. Right. Now, learning outcomes, writing learning outcomes it's a bit of a complex area. You need to highlight more. While writing learning outcomes, you need to ensure that everybody understands what you exactly want or want from the students, or the students must get their answers to their questions, right? So one of the example here of a learning outcome, see, students will develop an appreciation for the application of organic synthesis to the solution of modern day technological and social challenges. So you see here, if you see, we can divide this particular example to few areas. Let's say you see here, there is a level of understanding that you require from the students. That is, they need to apply and synthesize, give solutions, right, at a higher critical level. That means you have designed these learning outcomes for a higher level of education, right? So from here only I can understand. And then you want them to be the catalyst for the social change, right? So in a broader perspective, you want the program outcomes to be, broader, to give back to the society. That is, you want social entrepreneur kind of students, right? Now, students will develop and appreciate, right? So you see, there are three parts: level of understanding, right? And another way is how you have actually mapped that into the curriculum. And then the third one is the domains that you have addressed, actually the psychomotor or other cognitive and affective, right? So you can see this example is so good. Every teacher can understand from here. You only ensure the things that can be the outcome and the level of understanding you want from the students, and your assessment will be designed very nicely. So learning outcome has to be very carefully written. And the benefits of learning outcomes are shared expectation from students and teachers both, and you always have a valid source to set learning goals, because once you give them learning outcomes, they have a source to refer to and ascertain their learning goals. Then clear directions for the teachers and educators as well, right? Levels of learning is through Bloom's taxonomy. Now, when the student get these learning outcomes, they may ask three questions. Do what? They can get answer from the learning outcome. That what they are expected to do. With what content they are asking you. With what content you need to tell them what content can be used. For what? You need to give them assessments in the learning outcome, the design of assessments before they start the program. The learning outcomes must be very clear to the students, because they have these three questions in their mind, right? What they have to do, and with what are the contents they have to assess, and what will they be assessed on, right? The third stage is of implementing OBE is designing down, right? That is designing assessments. While designing assessments, you need to ensure the Bloom's taxonomy has to be referred, which is a scale of level of expertise that you want your students to achieve, right? And this, if I go to this next slide, this is Bloom's taxonomy. I've taken only few of that. It's a big table actually. Bloom's levels, you can see only two levels I've taken: Bloom's definition and verbs that you write for designing your assessment. And you see there are 6 levels of understanding according to Bloom's. You see, one is knowledge, comprehension. If you go higher, application. Another, analysis. Then if you are at the highest level, then you're synthesizing and evaluating things, right? So for the students, there are 6 levels. You ensure that your assessments are designed so and worded accordingly in the learning outcomes. For instance, if you want the students to apply knowledge, you need to write, remember previously learned information, that is the concepts, right? If you want them to do comprehension, then you ask them demonstrate an understanding of the facts, right? Accordingly, the phrases in the assessment that you will use is verbs. Arrange these things like this. Define the concept of something, right? Describe climate change, something like that, right? So, and when we go further, classify, apply, analyze, arrange, appraise. So we must be careful about our words, what you are writing, so that our students also will be attentive and understand at what level they have to produce things, right? Now, as I have already spoken about designing down, here we have 3 phases. What will students learn? We need to visualize that. That is the learning outcomes. How will outcomes be measured? That is through assessments. And what will students do to achieve these outcomes? Then you come back to the original, the bottom, and do the changes here so that they will be able to achieve the outcome, right? So that is the required KSAs. You have to ensure knowledge, skills, and attitude now so that they can achieve the future goal. Now, as I have already told you where we can actually implement, it's very simple. And why we have to implement? Because, excuse me, we want to ensure that the program outcomes are to be satisfied. That is, what students would know and able to do after completing their graduation must be clear to the students, right? And the learning outcome must be fitted in and mapped to the program outcome, the overall program, so that they can serve the society and the environment. Okay, now the technical education is suffering a lot. Sometimes they are criticized because they're boring. Sometimes they are called like there is only kind of mathematical equations and hard to remember, whatever. And sometimes it's too lengthy, they say, and many other reasons. No pictures, no graphical uses, and all those things. So, excuse me. To have Yeah. So, because we are suffering, the technical education is literally suffering for many reasons. Many reasons because, and nowadays people say, oh, you don't do a BTech because you cannot be employed. BTech is no more, marketable. So many things, which is not true, because the BTech we produce, the graduates we produce, are not employable. There are still jobs available, but they are not able to satisfy the criteria, right? So this is what we are having, a crisis which needs to be seriously looked into, because we have already got the report from the SMEs, MSME department, also from the new department called Skill Development Ministry, Skill Development and Entrepreneurship Ministry, newly constructed by this government. We have got severe shortage of skilled people, so they are actually enhancing the skills of polytechnic students, diploma students, to be fitted into the programs, whereas our BTech students are not employable. Can you believe? So we need to actually work on this direction. So here, OBE can be a powerful tool to overcome our problems. The challenges that we are actually having is the obsolete syllabus, and we are not updating students. So we can actually build up center of excellence. Our government is helping in there. So we can build on center of excellence with new skill development centers in our colleges, schools, to actually address these issues. So what we need to do is, because we are permanent seat holder in Washington Accord, which is based on principles of sustainability, sustainable education and innovation. So it also is putting pressure. It is based on OBE, so it is putting pressure on teachers in India to go for the system, because the accreditation system has changed, and you have to report in OBE format only. So this is no way to avoid these things. Currently we have 17 signatory countries in Washington Accord, which has been our country is represented by NBA, which is formed by AICT. NBA is permanent member now since 2014. So we need to ensure that our enhancement of learning can be done. And moreover, we have critical positions. Our critical position of our industries is that, when I have attended last Confederation Indian Industry program, it is fourth Indo-Australia conference over there, I found out the ministry was very keen to develop skill development is also this government's aim. uh, why they're aiming so? They have shown some statistics which were shocking, like how we are not producing employable graduates. Over there, the representatives of industries were shouting, like we cannot follow the system, educational system in India. Education system has to follow us. We need to ensure these things. And you see, I have listed down few of the surveys that has been done by the government of India through different agencies, that also says, apart from these technical skills, the new technology, we have also shortage of skills like, communication skill. Can you believe communication skills? We have got no team building skills. Critical thinking is not there. Problem solving skills are not there. Students are passing just like that. They're not able to solve any problem. They're not able to give back to the society. So this is quite distressing for us, right? So that is why it is very important. Also, in UNESCO report has said that people get this. The report raised many critical issues that hamper impacting quality education. That is, some of those are that is no proper use of ICT, technology, that is through inquiry-based learning system. Also, they have complained about engineering graduates should have multidisciplinary knowledge, and they are not having multidisciplinary. Gives you a platform to work in many areas, and you collaborate with many areas to have something very useful, and much needed by our society. So multidisciplinary research, multidisciplinary work is what is needed today. Also, they also blame the accrediting authorities because they have not ensured how the colleges need to report, for instance, uniformly, or how they can address the desirable graduate attributes inside the engineering graduates. How they didn't specify the ways to inculcate these attributes, graduate attributes, in the engineering graduates. What is graduate attributes? Graduate attributes are something which you want your students to have after they complete the program, right? On the backdrop of all these surveys and a critical situation, MHRD have changed the criteria for accreditation to become outcome-based to make our technical and engineering graduates ready for global employment. Now, you see, there are by NBA, the National Board of Accreditation, have actually defined these skills, these graduate attributes should be there in the graduate after he finishes his program, right? Engineering program. This is for engineering program, right? And because after we have signed, we are permanent seat holders in Washington Accord. Our degrees, our engineering degrees, will be will be accepted by all the members of United Nations. So we need to ensure the quality. We have to work hard towards that. So actually, this is what I have. If you see, there are many graduate attributes like communication, teamwork, ethics at work. How do you give back to the society? That is, environment. Engineers should be, they should owe something to the society, and they should work towards sustainability, saving resources for future generation, and all that. One of the graduate attributes is modern tool usage, which will be covered by Dr. Nidika Billa in our next webinar tomorrow at the same time. And there are a few key concepts that you need to actually focus back, reflect back. One of those is learning outcome. What are the graduate attributes? Sorry, it's not MBA, it's NBA. Then you need to know Bloom's taxonomy to design your assessments properly, looking at the level of uh, what level they are in engineering, and design down approach. That is visualizing your vision first, goals first, then design your programs, do corrections in your programs today to ensure a good result tomorrow, right? And that's it. I'm done. And this is the sketch of Dr. Nidika Billa's webinar tomorrow. If you have got any questions for me, you can ask or share any experience if you would like to. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll give the audience 1 or 2 minutes in case they're typing questions.
Okay. My questions. Yeah, any questions, please? Hope I addressed all your queries, all in your mind. I didn't get any questions till now.
There seem to be no questions. So, in case there are any questions, the email I'll forward to you. Thank you
Okay.
very much. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm signing off.
Yeah, ma'am. See you.
Thank you. 40 मिनट